Across Bolivia's high plains and crowded cities, a new form of political protest is quietly gaining momentum. This time, it's not a march for a candidate or a rally for a party, but a call to action that asks voters to leave their ballots blank. In the heart of the Andes, from the bustling streets of La Paz to the remote villages scattered across the Altiplano, the blank vote is emerging as a powerful symbol of dissent. Supporters of former President Evo Morales, especially in the strongholds of Chapare and El Alto, are at the forefront of this movement. They urge voters to reject the entire slate of candidates in the upcoming 2025 elections, sending a message that goes beyond party lines. The blank vote, or voto nulo, has become their answer to Morales' controversial disqualification, a coordinated act of defiance orchestrated by the Evista wing of the MAS party. For them, it's not just about one leader, but about defending the right to choose freely. They argue passionately that if Morales cannot run, then the entire election process is fundamentally illegitimate. Their protests echo through city streets and rural plazas alike. The campaign spreads rapidly through social media platforms, local radio stations, and union meetings, reaching both urban youth and rural workers. It gains traction among those who feel silenced or marginalized by what they perceive as a conspiracy against their chosen leader. In town halls and rural assemblies, activists work tirelessly to frame the blank ballot not as an act of apathy, but as a deliberate protest, a rejection of both the current government and the MAS faction led by President Arce. They distribute flyers, hold debates, and encourage communities to make their voices heard in a new way. This growing movement challenges the very legitimacy of the election itself, transforming the vote into a referendum on Morales' exclusion and the broader state of Bolivian democracy. For many Bolivians, the campaign is deeply unsettling, threatening to destabilize a fragile political system that is still scarred by the turmoil and violence of the 2019 crisis. The memories of unrest linger, fueling anxiety about what might come next. As Bolivia heads toward another pivotal vote, the blank ballot campaign injects a new layer of uncertainty into the political landscape. It raises the specter of an election where the winner may lack a true mandate, leaving the country's future more uncertain than ever before. To grasp the blank vote's power, you must understand Evo Morales, a former coca farmer and union leader who became Bolivia's first indigenous president in 2006. His election was historic, promising a new social contract for the poor and indigenous majority. Morales' government nationalized industries, funded social programs, and reduced poverty, transforming lives in neglected communities. For supporters, he embodied dignity and social justice, elevating indigenous identity and challenging old elites. But his long rule bred controversy. Critics accused him of authoritarianism, judicial control, and corruption. The Tipnis Highway dispute exposed rifts between development and indigenous rights, alienating some allies. Morales' refusal to step down after losing a 2016 term limit referendum, enabled by a court ruling, deeply polarized Bolivia. This set the stage for the 2019 crisis, cementing his image as both a champion and an autocrat. Morales' legacy now divides the nation, fueling the blank vote movement. Morales' exclusion from the 2025 race stems from a 2023 court ruling reinstating term limits, barring him after 3 terms. His supporters see this as political persecution, orchestrated by rivals within the MAS and the judiciary. The Evistas claim President Arce's government is using the courts to sideline Morales and erase his influence. This narrative of lawfare has become the rallying cry for the blank vote campaign, casting Morales as a political martyr. Morales responded defiantly, denouncing the ruling and mobilizing protests and blockades. His disqualification has only strengthened his base, transforming him into the architect of a nationwide protest. Unable to run, Morales now channels his influence into undermining the electoral process itself. The 2025 election intended to move past him is now defined by his absence. The blank vote campaign is a calculated rebellion, orchestrated by Morales' most loyal supporters, coca grower unions, grassroots movements, and indigenous organizations. These groups, long at the heart of Bolivia's social fabric, have united with a single purpose: to challenge the legitimacy of the current political system and demand a voice for those who feel silenced. Their goal is clear: to trigger a constitutional mechanism that would annul the election if blank and null votes outnumber valid ones. This legal loophole offers a rare opportunity to disrupt the status quo and force the government to listen. This is more than mere symbolism, it's a direct strategic attempt to force a political reset and potentially reopen the door for Morales' return to power. Every blank ballot is a statement of resistance, a refusal to accept the choices offered. The campaign spreads rapidly through community radio in rural areas, where traditional media often fails to reach, and where grassroots organizing is strongest. In the cities, social media becomes the battleground, with activists sharing videos, graphics, and messages urging urban voters to join the movement. Across Bolivia, campaigners urge voters to spoil their ballots as an act of revolutionary defiance, distributing pamphlets and painting slogans on city walls. Organizers frame the blank vote as a way to reclaim power from a corrupt political class that excluded their leader, promising a new beginning for the country's democracy. It's a high-stakes gamble, relying on mass mobilization to reject all candidates. With mandatory voting laws in place, the challenge is not just to get people to the polls, but to convince them to reject the entire slate. Persuading millions to cast blank ballots is a monumental challenge, requiring relentless outreach, passionate debate, and a shared sense of purpose among diverse communities. The campaign transforms the election into a referendum on its own legitimacy, turning a routine vote into a dramatic test of the people's will. If successful, the movement would upend Bolivia's political order, sending shockwaves through the nation and rewriting the rules of power. Morales' supporters, known as Evistas, remain fiercely loyal, their devotion deeply rooted in the sweeping social transformation that marked his presidency. This loyalty is not just political, but emotional and cultural, forged through years of shared struggle and hope. For many rural and indigenous Bolivians, Morales' government brought long-awaited visibility, dignity, and tangible economic relief. Nationalized industries and expansive social programs improved daily life, providing jobs, healthcare, and education to communities that had long been marginalized and overlooked. Morales' historic rise to power became a profound source of pride, elevating indigenous identity and enshrining their rights in the Bolivian constitution for the first time. His leadership symbolized a new era of inclusion and respect for indigenous heritage. This loyalty is deeply personal. Morales is seen as one of their own, a leader who truly lived their struggles and understood their needs. His humble origins and connection to the land resonate powerfully with his supporters. Evistas passionately believe that only Morales can defend the hard-won gains of their movement. They fear that political rivals will dismantle his legacy, undoing years of progress and returning to a time of exclusion. The blank vote has become a powerful defensive act, meant to protect what they see as a threatened revolution. It is a statement of resistance, a refusal to legitimize alternatives they distrust. Many Evistas view Morales as a victim of a foreign-backed coup and ongoing political persecution, believing that outside forces seek to undermine their movement and silence their voices. For them, defending Morales is synonymous with defending democracy, national sovereignty, and the right to self-determination. Their struggle is about more than one leader. It's about the future of their country. Casting a blank vote is not an act of withdrawal, but a determined fight to restore the democratic process with their chosen leader at the helm. It is a way to demand respect for their voice and their history. Through controversy and challenge, their loyalty endures, unwavering, resilient, and deeply rooted in a shared vision for Bolivia's future. The blank vote campaign exposes a civil war within the MAS party, splitting it into Evistas loyal to Morales and Arcistas backing President Arce. Once united, the party is now paralyzed by rivalry, with former allies turned adversaries. Morales expected to guide Arce's presidency, but Arce asserted independence, seeking a more moderate path. Evistas accuse Arce of betrayal and using state power to sideline Morales. Arcistas say Morales destabilizes the government for personal ambition. This schism splits the left-wing vote, undermining MAS's dominance. Evistas urge supporters to reject the party's own candidate, deepening confusion and division. The blank vote is both a protest against the opposition and a direct assault on Arce's legitimacy. Without Morales, the MAS faces an identity crisis. The blank vote campaign unfolds amid economic crisis. Bolivia's commodity boom is over, reserves are low, and public debt is rising. President Arce's government struggles with shortages, inflation fears, and growing public frustration. The MAS's promise of stability is fading, fueling discontent and making the blank vote campaign resonate. Evistas blame Arce for economic woes, claiming only Morales can restore prosperity. Politically, Bolivia is polarized and trust in institutions is low, with the MAS's infighting compounding instability. The right-wing opposition remains fragmented, unable to fill the power vacuum. The blank vote reflects a deeper crisis of governance and widespread disillusionment with the political class. Many feel abandoned, seeing the system as broken, regardless of who leads. The campaign both feeds on and deepens this instability. If the blank vote campaign succeeds and null ballots outnumber valid ones, the 2025 election would be annulled, plunging Bolivia into political limbo. A new election would be required, but the core conflict, Morales's exclusion, would remain unresolved, risking a constitutional crisis. Even without annulment, a high blank vote would weaken the winner's mandate, fueling opposition and unrest. The new president could face constant protests and legitimacy challenges, making governance nearly impossible. The campaign threatens to erode trust in elections, promoting the idea that if your candidate can't win, the system is worthless. This undermines democracy, deepens divisions, and risks opening the door to authoritarian solutions. The Evistas' protest, meant to defend democracy, could destabilize it further. Bolivia's political future hangs in the balance. As Bolivia approaches the 2025 election, it stands at a crossroads, divided, uncertain, and deeply polarized. The blank vote campaign, born of loyalty, grievance, and party infighting, is the clearest sign of this fracture. It's a rebellion against a system many see as rigged, turning voting into protest. Success could trigger a constitutional crisis. Failure could leave a weak, contested government. Morales's legacy looms large, inspiring devotion and opposition, trapping the country in unresolved conflict. The MAS's internal war reflects this legacy, splitting its base and undermining its future. The blank vote is a symptom of a deeper crisis of representation and trust. Healing Bolivia's divisions will require leadership and compromise that seem distant. The 2025 election, meant to restore stability, now threatens to deepen the nation's turmoil.